So this is the image that we're going to be using to cure or understand how to remove blemishes. But before that, I need you to understand one simple concept, something that is going to be widely used if you're going to be looking at any YouTube tutorial to remove these blemishes. This one is called a high pass filter. Now, what is a high pass filter? Let's see that in action. Now I have this image over here. You can see that this is a very structured, defined image. What high pass is supposed to do is create a new gray layer that ends up highlighting these edges. The more the number of edges, the more sharpening that happens within the image. So if I increase the high pass, you would see the number of edges would increase and the intensity of these edges would increase. If I decrease this, you would see that this is an entirely gray image. So what exactly happens is if I just bring up this right over here, I'll be able to see a simple definition of the edges that are visible in that image. So if I hit OK, this will end up converting it into a gray image with all of these options. Okay, now I hope you've understood what this high pass filter does. So let's go back over here. Now with this image, the first thing that I will do is to find out all these blemishes. Once I have that, then we can blur them out so that the skin pores are still visible and the skin feels somewhat natural. Then finally we would paint it and choose the areas in which we want that skin to look clear. So to get started, I will create a duplicate of this image. I have this image over here. Invert it so I can see just the negative and then convert it to vivid light. This highlights those areas that have very specific contrast. You can see that there are these areas that have high contrast compared to the skin tone itself. So before we move forward and apply a new high pass filter, we will make sure that we are converting it for smart filter so that we can come back and change if the image needs any improvements. Now I can see that this layer has been converted into a smart layer. Moving forward, go to other, select high pass. Now with high pass, it ends up converting it in the opposite color because we have already chosen vivid light. And now I will choose a part so that I can see a clear demarcation but not lose out on the details of the image. If you can see, the lower the value of high pass is, the clearer that image is, and the higher we go, there is a lot of blurring. We want to make sure that the skin texture is as visible as possible. So we have something like this that could work. An image like this over here. I can see that there are a lot of blemishes still, so maybe just increase it a little bit. And yeah, I think somewhere around this number would be a good structure. With this, set it up. We have a high pass filter that has essentially blurred the image itself. Now I could have chosen an overlay also, and that would have made very little difference. Generally with high pass, you would choose either an overlay or a vivid light. That makes it use the best. Now with this set, let's go to Gaussian blur and start blurring out these sections. So if I decrease the radius, you would see that there is a lot of blurriness. If I increase this, you would see the blurriness disappears. This works in the opposite direction because we already have a high pass and a blur applied with an overlay. So I'd want to get it to a space where I can lose out on the blemishes, but while still maintaining this definition of the skin pores. So somewhere around this number looks good. With this, I can see that there is now a structured clarity in the skin. As for the next part, I can see that this is happening across on all of the different areas on the image as well. And that is why we will use a mask. So with this layer selected, hold Alt and click on this layer mask button. This will end up creating a new black mask. Now with this selected, we will paint in the areas that we want the blemishes to disappear from. So for this, select a brush, make sure that you have white color so that we can show what we want to bring up. And with this, if I start painting over here, you can see that these blemishes will end up reducing to a large extent. Great. So what I have done is painted on the area of the skin that has a lot of blemishes, and I've made sure that it does not go up on the eyes or on the lips where we will lose the definition. Now, in case you still think that there are a lot of blemishes visible, I can play around with the high pass filters and the Gaussian blur filter to make sure that those also disappear. So if I increase the high pass, you can see that the skin is way more clear. And similarly, with a Gaussian blur, I will decrease this to make sure that there is a structure that is visible still in the skin. Now to compare, here is the initial image and the final image. We could play around with 3 of these images in a single screen, something like this. And this way we can create a simple ad that shows how Curology, that brand over here, impacts on skin over a period of time. Of course, it's fake, it's Photoshop, but a good way to remove these blemishes is something that you have learned in this particular video.